I will just take opening remarks from each panelist, and after that, I will request the people in the audience to do my work and take all questions from the panelists. So, Kunal sir and Simar sir, do you think we should
Yeah,
start?
we should start. Hi guys, thanks for taking the time. I hope you are doing well on this Saturday. So I think consumerism is one thing which is the result of the capitalistic economy that we live in, which has developed over the last 7 or 8 decades. I believe it was after the Second World War in 1960s or so. Some economist came up with an idea that economy should keep growing every year. He convinced all the big civilized developing societies, including US especially, that if economy keeps growing, the jobs keep coming, and everyone in the world is happy. Now, I personally challenge that. I think that it's a wrong assumption which we are all living with, which all our politicians, our society, our economists, our all the businesses and the corporate world and everyone lives with today, that you need to keep growing every year. Think of nature. Humans are at the end a product of nature, part of nature. Think of nature. Does everything keep growing endlessly? Human baby, when the baby is born, is a few kgs, and then they grow up to 50 to 100 kgs or so as a human adult, right? Your height grows from 0 or few inches to 5 6 7 8 feet, right? Not more than that. Everything stops. I do not think currently the problems we face in the world are of lack of products or lack of choices or lack of anything, but the problem is that a lack of wealth as such, so to say. But I think the problems are that they are not fairly allocated. 2% rich people own 90% of the wealth. If you've not heard that, I mean, that's something you can easily Google and try to believe in. I don't think, and on one part you will see that, let's say as an example, in Indian marriages or in buffets that we eat in 5 stars or in hotels, we are wasting food because we can, and it doesn't cost us anything, so to say. But on the other hand, there are people dying of hunger and lack of food and water and nutrition and variety of things in Africa, in poor parts of India itself, for example. So the problem is not that we don't have enough food. The problem is that we are clearly not allocating it properly. Everyone is not eating as much as they need, as much as they should, or as much as they need to. They are getting everything they want to, and then they keep wasting things. I think it's a massive problem driven by the capitalism, the economy, the government, the social structure we live in, where we believe every year something has to grow. I challenge that. I believe economies don't need to grow beyond a point. That's not how nature intended it. The growth is overrated. Growth is achieved at the expense of sustainability. The growth is achieved at the expense of many other problems that we face in the world today. And I think that is a fundamental flaw, I believe, in the whole system. That's number one, the capitalism and the constant drive to get economic growth at no matter what expense, in which now governments are printing money to give people money so they can keep spending it, and the economy seemingly keeps growing. To put something in perspective here for you, the whole global debt of all the governments combined in the world today is close to $300 trillion. $300 trillion of debt is owed by all the governments in the world to each other or whoever. Obviously, we didn't borrow this from someone at Mars, right? So we have created a financial system which is arguably a flawed system. Arguably, of course, it seems to work for now until it doesn't. But it has its challenges. But how have we borrowed? We have essentially borrowed today to not face the economic recessions or slowdowns that we need to, and we are borrowing it from the future generations. Future generations are not going to be happy about it, because somebody has to pay back all these loans and debt. Okay. And consumerism is essentially, let me explain you what it is for me personally from my angle. It is essentially that you are buying things at a discount that you don't need in order to impress people that you don't like, and that's a result of social media on top of it. we get some instant gratification by ordering something on Amazon or Myntra or going and buying in a shop somewhere, and we buy stuff which we genuinely don't need. I mean, how many times have you bought something that you have not enjoyed as much later because you bought it because it was on sale? How many of you have, if there are females in the group, how many of you have stood in the line outside Zara when the sale is about to open, or any other shop like that? How many of guys have stood outside the Apple or Xbox sales when they launch a new product? Or how many of you have bought Netflix or other subscriptions where you are just getting overload of data and overload of content, which, everything is a buffet. Everything in life is a buffet today, and that is what is hurting us. We do not need endless food. We should be able to limit ration some of the things. We should be able to use what we need versus what we want. Need versus want is what all the marketeers play with. That's in our head, in our subconscious. They will convince you that you need to look prettier or smarter or hunkier or something else than Hrithik Roshan and Katrina Kaif or whoever are the people promoting in the ads, and they'll sell us shit. Coke is shit. It's just sugared water, right? There's no value whatsoever in that drink. Okay, the clothes you buy, you may have. I remember growing up. We used to have. I have elder brother whose clothes I would wear when I would grow up, and when they would fit me and not fit him. I was younger, so I was a bit smaller than him at the time. So I would wear his clothes, and we would all wear clothes of each other, and then we would even recycle. And today we are just buying and throwing away stuff that we don't need, and then it's feeding into our unsustainable ecosystem where it all is poorly dumped and is not biodegradable, etc. So we are being sold things we clearly don't need, and for them we have become just a consumer whose minds can be growth hacked. Everyone, when somebody says a digital marketer, we are doing growth hacking, essentially they are messing with your brain. They're telling you things you need in order to be happy. Tell me, how many of you have ever bought something and felt happy after that day, and months and years after you do not feel happy beyond a point, because then you want the next thing. Then you want the next thing because you see the next advert or advert on television, or you watch the next Instagram influencer showing something. We do not need things people tell us we need. Okay, we should need what we want from inside, and we barely connect with ourselves with our own inside. We don't connect with ourselves at all. We are just so hooked on to the screens and televisions and mobiles and social media and stuff. So try and find things what you enjoy. The best thing might be, just ask yourself, if you bought a cloth or dress or a jeans or something that you didn't need and you had to throw it away, or it didn't fit, or it wasn't great, it was just a brand and you wanted to have a brand. If you don't enjoy things after you've got them, a while after you got them, means you never needed them in the first place. Try and avoid repeating that mistake again. Try to find out things you bought and you still enjoy them. It could be your MacBook, it could be your guitar, it could be anything that you really keep enjoying. That's what you need, and even that you don't need 10 of them, you just need one of them, as long as it works. Okay, so that's a consumerism where they sell you things you don't need. Try and don't fall for that trap, because the happiness, satisfaction is not outside by showing off to people whom you should not care about. You should try and find out what you enjoy the most, and then just do it. Then just buy it, or then just consume it. But don't buy things because they are cheap. Don't buy things in sale. Don't buy things because some social media influencer is pushing it in your head, etc. That will never give you lead to satisfaction. Hopefully sooner or later you would realize that. Hopefully maybe this conversation will make you more aware of it. And hopefully you can lead to something as they call as a minimalistic lifestyle, where you buy only what you need, which might be, let's say, X amount of clothes, minimal stuff, and not keep buying and storing stuff because it's cheap and because you can. Okay, so try and get out of that trap. It's a complete trap, nothing else. And then try and spend more time with yourself. You connect with yourself alone, without the screens, without the mobiles, without the social media. Hopefully you will start discovering what you truly enjoy, and hopefully you would actually then go for those activities. Those activities, memories, experiences are way more valuable to me and to my mind, and to most of you. They should be more valuable than any product, anything ever sold to you. Any product, any clothing, any food, any hotel, anything else will never satisfy you beyond a point, okay, and they are not meant to be making you happy. They are just meant to be a means to an end, okay. Clothes just make you wear something comfortable so you are covered, that's it. Beyond that there's no end, there are. So try and not fall for that trap. I hope I've tried to put across some interesting points for you to think about.
So, guys, we're talking about consumerism here. And I would just like to tell you that every year the Global Footprint Network announces something called an Earth Overshoot Day. So, this is the annual date when we've collectively used up the resources of our planet that which can be renewed in a single year before going into an ecological debt. So basically, in 1971, Earth Overshoot Day fell on 21st December. This means that in 1971, after 21st December, whatever resources that were used by humans as a species, uh, those resources put us in an ecological debt. Now in 2021, it is July 29th. So you can imagine it's June 19th right now. And after July 29th, whatever resources we use for the coming 5 months, they will be putting us in an ecological debt. So this is the problem that we're trying to talk about here, that we use resources endlessly, but that is what is hurting the planet. So now we have to understand why that happens to us. And one big reason that we all are a part of consumerism, even Kunal sir, me, Simar sir, Govindji, everyone here, in some capacity or other, we are parts of consumerism. And the reason is that there is something called neuromarketing. And like Kunal sir also mentioned, that neuromarketing plays a major role in feeding our brains with the idea that we absolutely need every product in the market. So Facebook alone has a turnover of $85 billion in 2020, and we know that Facebook company generates most of its revenue from advertisements. So if one digital marketing platform earns $85 billion out of advertising, we can imagine how much money is being spent on advertising all over the world. And we can't be naive enough to think that this budget is only being used to make us aware, simply aware about the product that these companies are making. No, neuromarketing and artificial intelligence is being used to make such marketing proposals, make such marketing uh, posts on social media that feed our brains with the idea that we need the product, and if we don't buy it, we won't be happy without it. And now let's say that these big corporations have a very good incentive that they have to increase their profits and maximize their revenues. But why doesn't the government or why don't the other organizations come in? So politically, it is still suicidal to promote consumption limiting legislation, because after all, every country aspires to become the biggest economy or the $1 trillion economy or whatever, like Kunal sir mentioned. So, in fact, sometimes we are guilted into buying products so that workers don't lose their jobs. I think this is also something which Kunal sir mentioned uh, in his opening remarks, that modern economics worships growth. Growth will solve poverty, they say, growth will reduce unemployment, increase the GDP, etc., etc. So, what we don't realize is that our economic growth and the so called rat race that every country is in, this rat race is taking our planet into an absolute ecological debt. Economy has become nothing but a number, and we are just competing with every other country in the world, which is not right, because we cannot be progressing economically every year, just like Kunal sir said. So this is one of the reasons we take pride in consuming more, buying every new product of our favorite gadgets, new clothes for every occasion, buying a new car every 3 years, just because we have the money for it. So this is something which we are tricked into, and we think that we are very proud to do that. However, I really hope that we have a lot of millennial and Gen Z listeners here, because we are the ones who have to drive this change. We are the ones, maybe we start feeling proud while we use more sustainable options. Maybe we start feeling proud when we reuse the same clothes. We use the same clothes for 3 or 4 or 6 important occasions of our life. We do not have to buy a new t-shirt for every new birthday party. Maybe we start bringing the change, because I think our generation has questioned each and everything, and that is something which is very, very good. And I hope that the listeners out here, they come up as speakers, they try to understand more deeply, and they also try to bring a change in their own social circle. So with that, Simar sir, we would like to know what your opinion is, and if you could just go ahead with your opening remarks.
When we talk about consumerism and when we talk about is it good, is it bad, again, it's a very subjective thing. It really depends upon relativity, it depends upon everybody's viewpoint. And and if you see the entire headline, it's a question mark there, and that's the whole idea of having questions and everybody thinking from their perspective, right? But Kunal really mentioned, because Kunal is someone that goes very deep into any subject. And while he was speaking about clothes, while he was speaking about economy, while he was speaking about countries competing against becoming the $1 trillion or the 10 trillion or the $18 trillion or whatever, right? I was just thinking that when you mentioned that, you know, the entire ecosystem is made in a way that, we are being positioned, we are being pushed, right? We are being used as a product, right? For all these digital marketing companies. I was just thinking that एक मिनट कपड़ों को साइड में रखते हैं, हम अपने फ्रिज को खोल के ना, एक सेकंड, हम फ्रिज को खोल के, आई वाज जस्ट थिंकिंग दैट अगर हर एक बंदा, अगर कोई भी 10 चीजें अगर अपनी फ्रिज में देखेगा जो पड़ी हैं, सिर्फ 7 या 8 ऐसी चीजें होंगी जो उसको नहीं चाहिए, जो उसको वांट्स है। बेशक अगर वो हम बात करते हैं, एक हर्शीज की सिरप की बात करते हैं, या एक मिल्क मेड की बात करते हैं, या एक रियल जूस की कैन की बात करते हैं, या एक फ्रोजन फूड्स की बात करते हैं, राइट? और पेप्सी और अ कोक और अ एरेटेड ड्रिंक या जो भी है, इफ यू जस्ट थिंक ऑन दोज लाइंस, दैट कि जो हम खा रहे हैं, मतलब इट इज जस्ट स्केरी एज हेल। एक मिनट कपड़ों को तो छोड़ दो ना, द थिंग्स, गाड़ियों को छोड़ दो, मटेरियलिस्टिक चीजों को छोड़ दो, हम जो खा रहे हैं, राइट? डू वी एक्चुअली need those things, right? Open your fridge and see the 10 things in front of you. 7, you don't need them. It is out of the want. It is the shameless marketing supply chain that has been there since last 20 years. Just imagine the fact that Ronaldo ने 2 कोक की बोतल साइड क्या रखी, $4 बिलियन का मार्केट कैप हिल गया कंपनी का। मतलब इट इज स्केरी है शिट जब हम सोचते हैं कि कितना ज्यादा कैपिटल अट्रैक्ट कर रहा है कंज्यूमरिज्म को, और मतलब इसके पीछे कितनी ज्यादा पैसा अट्रैक्ट हो रहा है इन टर्म्स ऑफ बिहेवियर साइंस, इन टर्म्स ऑफ चेंजिंग द बिहेवियर ऑफ पीपल। कंपनीज, कंट्रीज ऑल्सो वर्क लाइक अ कंपनी, राइट? कि हर साल ज्यादा टर्नओवर करना, वो टर्नओवर क्या, वो जीडीपी है। आज बोलते हैं जी यार नई ब्रांडिंग स्टार्ट होगी जी, $3 ट्रिलियन करना है, $5 ट्रिलियन करना है, रेस लगी हुई है। यूएस बैठा हुआ है 17-18 ट्रिलियन पे, पूरी इकोनॉमी करते तो कुछ $92 ट्रिलियन बनता है। सारी कंट्रीज को अगर कंबाइन, मेरे है क्या ये चीज एट द कोर वेयर इट इज? मतलब अगर हम बिल्कुल कोर पे चले जाएं, जस्ट थिंक दैट व्हाट वी आर हैविंग, राइट? हमारी लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी की बात करते हैं कि चलो 70, 75, 80 साल होगी। द थिंग्स दैट आर देयर इन आवर फ्रिज, डू वी एक्चुअली नीड दैट? If not, how did it bloody reach there in the first place? Yeah, it requires a deep understanding about, and you will get the answer very very deep rooted into our behavioral science। जो ये इन्फ्लुएंसर्स को चेप रहे हैं, जो ये चीजें कर रहे हैं, मैं नहीं कहता सही गलत है, आई थिंक एवरीबडी हैज टू टेक देयर ओन डिसीजन, but I'm just telling you the facts and just telling you where to see, where do you see yourself, and the kind of effect, the kind of invisible effect that it's happening, and soon it will be visible, I think already dikh bhi raha hai। So I think that's my take on that।
Perfect, perfect. Thanks a lot for your insights.
I yeah, Anshuman, can I add a couple more points? Just came to my mind while
Sure, sure,
listening.
sure.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
So
Please go ahead.
guys, just 2 more points I would like to add. One is, rather than measuring a country's happiness by its GDP growth, Bhutan as a country has come up with a great example. They call it GNP, Gross National Happiness, GNH. So they check how happy people are, and they are very satisfied with lesser stuff that they have. More stuff never makes you happy. So there are other ways to measure it. Probably we are measuring it all wrong. We are looking at it all wrong, the GDP growth. Instead of that, we should try and see how satisfied and happy people are, probably. And happiness, as somebody earlier mentioned, like I live in Kasoli, I have a minimalistic lifestyle. That's a best thing. You don't need to keep comparing that. Do you have a big house in Delhi, or do you have a bigger car in Bombay, or do you have a big office, or whatever? You don't need to keep comparing. You are living a different life. And social media, unfortunately, in the last decade has led us to do more and more of that comparisons, because that's how they make you trick into wanting more things, and that's how they sell you to advertisers, because they don't charge you anything. Facebook being free means that you are the product, they are selling you to the advertisers, right? One more, as an example, we talked about clothes, gadgets and stuff. Think about this. Have you seen, I'm guessing, Ritik Roshan promotes a deodorant, and then he shows in the ad that Ritik Roshan or Akshay Kumar, that they get some girls follow them or something like that. Do you think those guys, number one, need a deodorant to get that at all? If any of you buy that deodorant because of that ad, just understand how much you are being fooled right now. As an example, or let's say an example for females, that if you're buying a lipstick because Katrina Kaif or Kareena Kapoor is promoting, because that'll make you look prettier, or different shades and whatever. That's how much they are fooling you on the face of the earth, right? So believe what you want, and hopefully don't continue doing things out of impulse, because that's what all those marketers and product guys and business guys are trying to sell you.
That I somehow feel that this entire proposition, or this entire debate is somehow it's very one-sided, in the sense that if I as a person feel that consumerism is good, I'm evilized. I am thought of as an evil person, right? So just think about my sort of profile, right? I am a typical person who spends 14 hours a day working, 5 days a week. I have maybe 2 weekends a day when I can enjoy my life. And there are certain things that give me joy, right? So I maybe agree by Kunal and Simar's point that there might be 8 out of 10 things in my fridge that I don't need and I want them, but there might be certain amount of happiness associated with that want, right? So maybe if I buy something, I don't need it, but just buying something makes me happy, right? And I don't see the point of evilizing me as an individual if I want something and I don't need it. That's point number one. Point number two, I think, now coming to the economy, right? So if we all start just living by our needs, we probably can live in a cave. We probably can live eating berries on trees. We don't need anything. That's because if we just satisfy our needs, we can go back 1,000 years and live how man was living, hunting animals, wearing probably leaves, and that's all we need to survive, right? But I think society has evolved. We've understood, sorry, that there are things we want and we don't need just to sort of have a better lifestyle, right? And if we go by that logic, then all luxury companies are sort of evil in some sense, that they promote consumerism, which is bad. All luxury cars should be banned. All luxury clothes should be banned. We probably just need maybe a cloth of satin or a cloth of khadi to cover ourselves, and that's about it. I somehow don't feel that's true, because a lot of people living don't want that, and I don't see a problem with them living the life they want. Right. Coming to the
Right.
final point, where somehow some people linked a lot of their sort of wants to how it could negatively affect the economy and the world and the society. I definitely feel you can strike a very good balance between the economy and the ecology, right? So there are living examples of ESG, or environmental, socially governance sort of compliant companies, where companies or businesses have been able to prove business models where they're able to satisfy consumer needs in an economically efficient way, right? And for example, and even regulations for that matter, right? So for example, even in India, the government is trying to push BS6, which is a living example of how you can probably want to drive the latest Mercedes Benz and still be ecologically sort of conservative in some sense. So I don't think that the economy and the ecology have to be at the opposite tangents. I definitely feel there's a balance we can strike between the two. So I somehow feel we need to sort of rethink this entire topic of how consumerism is not as bad. And coming to the
Right.
last point of Bhutan, right? So I think Bhutan is definitely a country that has been similarly to how you have sort of talked about companies on Facebook. I think Bhutan is a living example of a country that has tried to promote itself through happiness. I don't think there is a way. I don't think that the way that Bhutan has defined happiness and the GDP makes a lot of sense. And a quick sort of metric to measure that is the amount of migration, right? Why will people who are extremely happy in their own country try to migrate? Bhutan is a country which has an extremely high rate of migration. And I don't understand why, if people in Bhutan are so happy with their country, why would they want to migrate to Western countries, right? If I am very happy at my home, why will I want to go to my neighbor?
So, guys, just to make it clear to everyone in this room, it's not like we are evilizing the people who are kind of living by their wants or needs or luxuries, whatever. I mean, Kunal sir came here, Simar sir came here. I just came in and I spoke facts only. So we are open to discussion here.
So I
Yeah.
think Rahul. So a few points for you. Firstly, you mentioned that you have a lifestyle of working 14 hours and 5 days or 6 days a week, and you get the weekend on which you want to do everything. I think somewhere either me or Simar we did say that look, consumerism is a subjective word. It means different thing to different people. Whatever makes you happy is fine. If you truly feel happy by spending more, by consuming more products, or being a consumer to any luxury, comfort, or necessity items, that's okay. We never challenge that at all. To everyone on their own. For me, what may be a necessity may be a luxury for you, or for me, whatever is a luxury may be a necessity for you. That's fine. Everyone on their own. We are just trying to bring out a point that the whole world is actually moving towards more consumerism, more economic growth, more capitalism, and there are some other sides of the story we all need to see and keep in mind. But then, how you practice that in your real life, nobody's here to judge. What anybody thinks of me is none of my business, and I'm nobody to judge anyone else. Okay, so whatever works for you, good for you. We're not here to judge you or evilize you or anything like that. Okay, that's not the point at all. Number one. Secondly, your fact was wrong that Bhutan has high migration numbers. Bhutan's migration numbers out of the country are among the lowest in the world. People migrate from different countries. People leave India, people leave US, Americans live in India, Indians live in America, etc. People go all over the place for a variety of reasons, for personal, family, education, career, etc. No one country is there in the world where nobody migrates anywhere else. Okay, Bhutan's numbers are not the highest in the world. They are among the bottom 100 countries out of the, let's say, roughly 200 countries or so where people do migrate, and they are not among the top 80 countries at all. They are after the top 80 countries of migration, which includes India and many others. Okay, I'm not trying to say that people in Bhutan are happier than India or less happy than India. I don't know. We don't have those statistics as an example coming out of India at all, right? Any numbers coming out of India, good luck, whatever you believe in. Last point I want to make, you mentioned that the companies are doing ecologically sustainable things, they are doing the environment friendly practices. You mentioned BS6. This is the biggest trap of all, and I can give lots and lots of facts on this. The electric trains have existed since 50s and 60s. The electric cars have existed since 60s and 70s. They never, the lobbies of the car companies, the oil companies of the Middle East, of the energy producers did not allow for any of the world to actually move away from the fossil fuels, which are still hurting the planet big time. BS6 is a minor improvement which helps a bit, of course, more the better, but it's way too little and way too late. Okay, we should not be talking BS6 today if you were to ask me, but again, everyone on their own. If you believe it's good enough for you, fine, go for that car or go for whatever you want to buy. All the governments, G7 countries, G20 countries, all the corporates are only doing lip service. Which of the FMCG company you know of, FMCG companies in the last 30 to 40 years have given us more plastic? 20, 30 years ago, we used to get recyclable glass bottles for cold drinks or any other products like that. Now, today, everything is plastic. Plastic stays on the planet 100 to 1000 years. It's not biodegradable. And through the ecological system, through the fish, through the garbage that we are dumping in the ground, it comes back in our food cycle today by becoming microplastics. It's not sustainable. All the companies like Nestle's and the big FMCG companies will talk about Unilevers and all that. No, we are trying to be ESG compliant, we are trying to be more environment friendly, etc. All that is crap. It's just big talk, no action.
Each and every person in this room is a part of consumerism. We are all a part of it. So if you're terming some people as evil and some people as not, we are all evils in this case, because after all, we're using an application, we have the latest smartphones, and we are contributing to the so-called ecological debt, right? So we can't help it now. But what we are saying is every person who believes in sustainability on this earth just has the belief that we should be more conscious about it. It is not that we have to leave everything and we have to uh, go in the forest and start living the life that we used to live 1,000 years ago. That's not what we mean. What we mean is that we just have to be a little more conscious about what we are buying, and we just have to realize the consequence of one transaction or of one purchase that happens to on the planet also. That is only perspective that we're trying to put here. I think Chitranjan sir here will also have something to add. That Chatty sir, if you could just tell us a little bit about what you think about economic growth, consumerism, and this other thing.
Hi everyone, good evening. Quickly, I'm very late to the party, so I really don't know what's been discussed and what's not been discussed. Basically, whether less is more or is more always better, not really, but there are caveats attached to everything, right? Things have to be within certain boundaries, but that does not mean that we forego innovation, that we forego a better way of doing things, that we forego uh, growth. One sad part of life since time immemorial is inflation. And I think at that point in time, we do need something that can beat inflation. Uh, Best left to people with more knowledge, behavioral economists, and everybody who have thrown light through various books and papers on this matter. But within consumerism, something is needed, but people need to learn where to draw the line. That's my two bits. Thank you.
And with that, I think we should start taking up questions and perspective from audience also. So Adhik, I think you are the first person who will be going ahead. So over to you.
Thank you so much. With regard to the consumerism, I would like to say that it was existed for thousands of years. It wasn't as globalized as it is right now, but there was like the Europeans buying Indian spice. We have been buying Chinese silk using the Silk Road. It wasn't globalized, but there has been the consumerism. I would, and also that with regards to the consumerism, there is something that we can change, we should change, and we let's say that consumerism in pretty much like the electronics. That was the reason that we have like iPhones and all the technological revolution we have. Without that, we would be using the Nokia. Let's say if no one wanted the high tech things. Uh, with regards to the consumerism, there is like medical and education that we should not have the as much consumerism as we have right now, because what happens is that medicines companies, like we see in the opioid crisis in the US, we see that medic all the medical companies are pushing as many as medicines as possible into the human beings for the sake of profits, and so that should be avoided. And the same with the education, they want to profit of the education of the people, and that's where the problem starts. So there should be a line that where the education, medicines, medical, that should be avoided, or at least that should be consciousness in the people that okay, we should not be the part of it. And and with regard to the consumerism, there is one more thing, is that people want to do a virtue signaling. They want to buy an iPhone, post a selfie, and let's say that, hey, I just bought an iPhone. People want to buy a BMW car, and let's say, because hey, I just bought a BMW. Because what happened is that we are the our human nature is about the virtue signal. We want to make sure that we are higher than our neighbors, our relatives in the social hierarchy. That's why we are here. Because if there was no virtue signaling, why would even everyone buy nice clothes, nice car, nice home, or let's say anything with regards to? Because we are part of the human with the society that has been built. It was built to make sure that you are higher than your neighbors or your relatives. So that pushes to buy the things, and this is the why the consumerism has exist right now. That's because of it. And when we say we should live minimalistic, or let's say we should not buy this, we should not do this, uh, like Buddhism was existed like several thousand years ago, and Buddha said that you should just try to avoid all those materialistic things, and should focus on yourself or something like that. Thousands of years ago, where then there was no like this multinational corporation or anything like that. Still, what happened? Nothing changed. Because why nothing changed? Because we as human part, because our own nature is based on virtue signaling. We want to show people that how many followers we have, what phone we use, what where city we live, how many money that we make, and that is not going to change anytime soon. As far because that's the foundation of our human nature.
So we'll move on to Soumya. Soumya, you can frame your question in under 1 minute, or if you have something to tell us about how you are trying to bring sustainability in your lives, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure, Anshuman. I'm gonna take a more middle stand here, especially because Rahul, came up with a problem that he is facing, and how consumerism is actually helping him cope up with such things. So I think I was also a
Right.
person that was like that before, but I've really understood why and the what's behind it. So I think I'm gonna take a single word here and say that we should think about the whole resource decentralization problem here. The issue why consumerism is becoming a bigger problem is only because more and more resources get allocated to it. Like we mentioned earlier, because it's much easier to get a better GDP with fast fashion and fast food. Then it's much better for countries just investing more there rather than putting those resources in the other things that they could invest them in. And because of that, more and more money gets invested in these things, and with these corporations, and they just end up using it further. And again, all of this flows back into the marketing, and making us buy more and more of it. So one I realized was that actually the brands that I buy, the food that I eat, is depriving other brands that could have survived, or other smaller brands that could have actually made use of that money better. Again, you can think about it also, like 10 years ago we were a little bit more local. We weren't just looking at these big brands. We were buying more locally. We were buying from our shops that were near us, but we've rather moved to this whole brand thing, and that's only making the problem much bigger. And the second kind of resource that I want to talk about is people itself. Now, when we buy from these big brands, especially with respect to fast fashion, the people that Zara and H&M put behind to work, right? These are people that have to churn out that much amount of fabric and pieces in small amount of time, and the amount that they're getting paid is very less. And that's the same with the people who are sitting in the assembly lines for iPhones and all these mobile brands that are blowing up. So because I am buying these big brands, there are people out there who would have, if only these resources had gone to better jobs, they would have been able to get these better jobs for much better rates. And the overall the our way of living would have been much more better. So that kind of made me conscious that, okay, both in terms of money and happiness, I am unknowingly contributing to like such kind of problems. And finally, a quick point is that if you take US today, the number of people in the US, that's 5% of the overall population of the world, but the resource consumption is at 25%. Ideally it should be at, even, I mean, because they're a first world country, let's say ideally it should be at 6%. But what is happening today is, other countries, because they can also do the same thing, and they can also bring up their GDPs just like the US is doing. Like for India's 3 trillion economy, for example, we're kind of mimicking these brands. More and more Zaras and H&Ms are coming into our country, and the more we start mimicking them, and the more we start to live the way of life that, like, the more our Cokes and Pepsis become bigger, and which we're already seeing, like our burgers are becoming bigger, and we're eating more from out, right? So when all of this happens, I'm just worried if, imagine that same 25% happening in India, and given our population, how big that blow up would be. And if only there was a feedback, like Kunal mentioned, if only there was a feedback to tell us, hey, climate change is actually happening. It does not have to be Greta Thunberg telling us that climate change is happening. If only our skies would turn green every time there's a greenhouse gas emission. If we could see it really, I think we'd be more mindful about it. But just because we're not seeing it, it's not that it's not happening. And it's really important to start on it, and not just think of consumerism as a way of happiness, not just your happiness, but rather the whole world's happiness, the whole world's money, and just like that. So that's my
Right.
thought.
Thanks a lot, Soumya, for your views, and you put it very well. You kind of satisfied the both opinions here. So thanks to you for that.
Yeah, if I
And
can put a quick question to the panel, is that all right,
yeah,
Anshuman?
sure. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just worried about the whole point of why are how hard is it, or what can we do to make our public policies better to make sure this whole skew is not happening. Even if we take our cities, like Indian cities, right? Some cities, certain industries being clustered in a particular city, or certain resources getting even within a state, it's always the capital cities that get the most resources. People flocking to these cities, and other smaller businesses just going out of business. So I'm not sure how maybe we're on a very ambitious path, just looking at the GDP right now. But how better could our public policies, and how can change come from the above?
I just want to mention one point before I try to answer your question, which is that, in Indian Vedas it is written that if you want to or choose to believe in it, that when we are born we have three debts on us. One is towards our family, second is towards our society, third is towards nature. All of us, most of us do care for ourselves, and many of us do care for our families, but barely anybody looks upon the society or the rest of the nature. When you're buying a Gap t-shirt from Gap or any other brand, Nike, we don't really worry that where the clothes is being made in Bangladesh or any other emerging country, even India for that matter, and which kids are working to make it happen, Nike shoes or Gap clothes and all. And we don't worry that where the clothes is coming from and where it's gonna end up in the landfill. So clearly we've remembered, or we've somehow been taught, at least in Indian context, that caring for us and our family is important, which I believe most of us do for the most part, but not caring for rest of the society and the environment is where all the problems start. One other point I want to make is that, I think it's a very interesting thing. I was just thinking through while we were speaking, while everyone was speaking in this room, that when did this all start? I think some of you made me think, when did this all start? And I was just trying to go back and probably thinking that, maybe as humans we have evolved, as we know from history and evolution, that for tens of thousands of years we were hunters and gatherers. We were constantly, just finding stuff, living in tribes and moving on, finding, whatever resources, natural resources we could get from the nature and just move on. But at some point, before the agriculture revolution, I believe, somebody somewhere said, this land belongs to me, this person belongs to me, this animal belongs to me. When the moment they started taking ownership of things, more as an authority, but probably less as a responsibility in due course, that's when maybe I think the consumerism started. And of course, like somebody mentioned, we've been there were spice trades happening years ago, decades ago, thousands of years, hundreds of years ago. There were many trades happening, and was that right? Was that not consumerism, when king would consume more and all the rest of his people in the kingdom would not get as much, and they have to work harder to pay the taxes, etc. I'm not here to say that was a better time or right now is a better time. Of course, there are pros and cons in every time. Arguably we are living better, we are living much longer. One thing I want to talk about the progress here is that due to innovation and the systems we have evolved from and evolved with, about 200-300 years ago and always before that, the average human life expectancy was less than 30-40 years. Did you know that? Less than 30 years, even 200 years ago, even in 18th century, the average life expectancy was about 30-35 years or so, because the healthcare had not evolved at all. You fall sick, good luck, unlucky. It's not necessary that you would survive. But in time, now the life expectancy has gone much higher. It's like 60, 70, 80 years, depending on how a developed country you're living in, etc. So there have been pros of the system eventually, but I think just wanted to make a couple of points. And lastly, trying to address your question, Soumya, I think top down, if you think in public policy, so I have 2-3 points here. One is that frankly, I am personally less of a believer in the democratic governments as such. It's again a separate debate. I'm less of a believer because I truly feel that it's not about one government or the other, left or right, or BJP or Congress or anything else. I'm not political at all. But I do think that if we believe in politics, means we've learned nothing from history. They all at the end do very similar things. But for them to, I think the public policy point you're trying to make is that somewhere we feel that the governments care or they should care. Unfortunately, I mean, maybe they do, some people do, we can't generalize. But unfortunately, for the most part, most of the governments end up caring for their own personal things, their own personal families, their own personal re-elections more than actually serving the people. So I don't think they care as much as we would like them to or want them to. I wish we could change that somehow. But more importantly, like you're saying, why is it that, let's say, if you talk about Haryana as a state, Gurgaon is everything. Okay, after Gurgaon would have, like, I don't know, I'm making it up, 80% GDP. I don't know the numbers, but Gurgaon must be contributing close to 80% GDP, and rest 20% are coming from 100 other cities in Haryana. In Punjab, let's say Mohali will be the number one, then Mohali, Ludhiana, Jalandhar would be the top three, but then other cities do not evolve or develop. I think there's a reason for that, because governments do try at times to encourage different productions, different incentives for industries to come, and then over time they become more ecosystem developed, and the ecosystems are developed around them. As an example, if you see the IT industry in Mohali has done much better than Chandigarh and Panchkula. Panchkula never really cared as much, I think. Again, no disrespect to anyone who might be from there, but I don't believe they were really worrying or trying to put in the effort at all. Chandigarh was too adamant and saying, we are union territory, we will do whatever we feel like. But for Punjab, they just they unintentionally somewhere took a decision that, let it be a free hand to all the IT industry who comes in. Let them choose their own, for example, building rules, their own, how they set up the industry, what they do. We'll support where we can. If we can't, we can't. And then Mohali just suddenly developed as an IT industry. Among the Tri-City, Mohali has the highest IT companies, highest number of IT buildings, highest number of IT employees. So can they do it? Can Punjab do it for everyone else around? Can they do it for Jalandhar or Taran Taran or another Firozpur district or somewhere else? It's hard, because then you need talent, you need local incentives, etc. So somehow over time the development happens this way, that let's say Himachal has set up SEZ unit and SEZ incentives in Baddi for 10-20 years, but then once all the factories are set up, they just continue there even without the incentives, right? So actually at public policy level, can they try for some ecosystems to develop somewhere else? It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of understanding of how the businesses work, trying to support them, trying to promote them. That's not what the bureaucrats and governments and elected officials are actually trained to do, and they are not least interested in grand scheme of things for the most part. Some of them might be doing their jobs well, but most of them actually do not go out of the way. They live in their own egos, that a businessman, or if they want to promote an industry, the industrialist will go to them and ask for permissions. It's not their job to go to the industrialist and say, can you open a shop here, and after you maybe more would follow. They would not think that privately, because they have no incentive of doing it. They are getting paid the same salary, they are getting the same 20 servants, all the bureaucrats, or hundreds of security guards if you're a CM or PM or whatever. They don't have the incentive of making it happen. In private industries there are incentives, and if you don't make things happen, then there is accountability. Unfortunately, in government bureaucracy there is not enough of that, so they don't go out of the way. It's hard work. Handful of ones who do, like in Karnataka at some point, I believe I forget the guy's name. There was a guy who used to go to US and attract industries and call them Microsoft, Google and all. They all opened in Bangalore eventually, or they all opened in Hyderabad because of him. So there are some people who took the initiative, but out of the 30 odd states that we have in the country, not everyone will be as interested, inclined in doing so. So due to lack of their ability, time, skill, as well as the incentive, many of them don't bother. Can public policy change? Yes. But it's like we are saying at the core, can humans change their nature?
So Soumya, I hope that your question was answered here. And
Yep,
now we
yep,
will
yep.
move on. And next up we have Siddharth with us. So over to you, Ji.
Hi Anshuman, hi Kunal, hi Sumarpreet. I'm Siddharth Multania. I have been a journalist. I am a practicing advocate now. What we are discussing here, the title says, the is more always better. ये पूरा एक थीसिस का सब्जेक्ट रहा है बैरी शॉर्ट का और what he said that more is less actually in a consumerism because better can be very subjective. So what we are living in today's scenario is like everything is full of choices. And when we say choices, choice are directly related to shopping. And then it is related to regret. When we go for a shopping for a gadgets, there are 40 thousands of 40 types of cameras, and it leads to confusion. When we go for a shopping for a mall, even if I want to buy a particular bell bottom jeans today, I cannot buy it in a very simple way the way I used to buy it. Now there are straight fit jeans, now there are casual jeans, so many choices. Now choices are there in the knowledge in the education sector. There are so many courses, that the students are confused which one I should, go for it. Because everyone wants a better choice and nobody wants to have regrets after that. Go for entertainment section. There are so many, content related to movies and everything, So choices expands, and that's what it is good for the consumer actually, so that they can choose better for themselves. But it is leading to a confusion today. The scenario is that because we are bombarded with these choices, and when we want to select the best, we always tend to ask from our friends or maybe our relatives, what is best for me. It starts from our home also. Previously, there used to be like, the mother used to ask from its kid, you want to have a juice? So yeah, the answer was yes or no. Now the question is, you want to have a, apple juice or, the maybe the another juice, banana shake. So there are three or four choices. The kid is confused. Okay, which one I should pick? Whether which one is better for me? I would recommend the listeners here or the speakers to read a book that is called The Paradox of Choices. It's a mind blowing book, and that's what I wanted to add. Thank you so much. Thanks for
Thanks a
giving me a
lot for
space
your
to speak.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. It was a very interesting point of view that you brought in here. And next up, we have Ayush. Ayush, if you could just put up your question in under 1 minute, we would be more than happy to take it up.
I don't have any question, but I would suggest two movies that highlight consumerism really well that everyone should watch. One is
All right.
Fight Club, and another one is uh, uh, Into the Wild. These movies are really great, and I would just say that I really agree with Kunal sir's perspective and really appreciate what he said. And thank you everyone for having this amazing, insightful conversation.
Thanks a lot, Ayush, for your movie recommendation. In fact, guys, this room has been created in association with EarthR. So please do go and check out earthr.org. Earth, the planet's name, r.org. Do check it out. You'll find a lot of ideas here.
Can I add one more consumerism example for some people that may relate with it?
Sure, sure, sure.
So
Please do.
Gillette had one blade, then it had two, then it had five. Now I believe it has eight. If you think about Gillette shaving, and it's not that you're cavemen and you've not shaved for decades or years or something, right? Who needs so many blades? But every year they'll come up with a new blade and say that this is the Fusion Glide, this or that, and this is the fastest, best ever. Whenever a company, like even Apple for that matter, every year they come out with a new product, it's the fastest and the best ever. Clearly, it's just a misguidance trying to sell you something that you don't need. Okay, so think about Gillette
So,
blades, classic example.
so
Perfect,
Kunal, I
perfect.
have
So
a different perspective to that.
Yeah.
If I may, so my perspective when it comes to Gillette or for the likes of Apple, what Anshuman was talking about, guys, in the space of consumerism, there is this concept which we call it as CLC. CLC means customer life cycle. So every consumer also have a life cycle. Just let's just reflect back, and in our given businesses, and in all the stuff what we have done, whether it is a purchase, whether in terms of the car, what was your first car? It was definitely not a Mercedes or a Beamer. It was something smaller than that, and then you eventually graduated to ending up buying that. So in the space of consumerism, you always have to create a journey for your customer to start adapting to the product first, and then keep building upon it. What Apple does, and to me, Apple is one of the finest companies who understands the real concept of CLC, customer lifecycle management, because they really, imagine standard phone which has been staying in existence for decades now, and people are still going bonkers about buying it and standing in queue just because Apple has launched a new phone. So I think, what is to be learned from organizations like Gillette and Apple is that they really nail the understanding of creating a life cycle of their products with their target consumer, and they are able to create a journey so that at all the stages you end up going and shelling off your wallet and keep buying that same razor, or possibly with more blades, or same phone with more little more features, but that's what they are doing good at. And I wasn't aware about this campaign, Anshuman, which you were talking about. But yes, I think if you again reflect back at the conversation what we were having, that's the current problem statement. So what Apple did is all about created a campaign around privacy. And I'm sure there'll be, out of those million people who are watching, there'll be a X percentage who will end up taking a decision of buying an Apple phone just because it helps them to save their privacy. So that's my thought process when it comes to Gillette, Apple, or any company which ends up having a series of products built upon on the basic one.
Definitely, sir. I think before you joined this room, we have complimented the marketing strategies of these companies enough. In fact, we were just talking about how unconsciously people are just buying stuff because the marketing strategies are so good. I have to mention this book recommendation. We had a movie recommendation earlier from one of the speakers, and this is a book called Sociopreneur. And we have the author of the book with us, who is Mr. Kunal Nandwani, and he has written this book beautifully. And I am a big fan of this book, which basically talks about how you can be an entrepreneur and at the same time keep the social part of it in mind. So, guys, do read it if you are someone who is trying to become an entrepreneur, if you are trying to start up. You definitely have to go through that book, because Kunal sir is someone who is an angel investor, and he is the founder of an organization like Earth Hour. So, I mean, he is the perfect person to write a book like Sociopreneur. So, please do give it a read. That's my personal recommendation for you. So next up we have Varun sir. Varun sir, do you have anything to add or any question for one of the panelists here?
Yeah, no, I don't have any question, but yeah, I would like to share that consumerism, as we're discussing, we should understand that consumerism, it is like two different sides of the coin. It has a good side, it has a bad side, right? For example, we can look at the aspect where consumerism drives the economic growth of a region, of a geography, of a country, of a society, right? And it also, you know, sometimes it leads you to some of the best innovation. Consumerism creates a kind of a competition, and then it drives your economic growth, thus leading to a innovation, I would say. But yes, it has its own, I would say, some problems which can be like for consumers. For example, there are so many products in the market that we're talking about. They may or may not have a good effect on your health, right? But that's a moral perspective of the product, right? But we don't understand, or we don't want to know that is it a better consumerism, or we should not continue that, right? For example, there has been a lately a great incident where Ronaldo just picked up a some soda bottle company, right? The product from that company, and instead of that, he put up a water bottle. There, he created an amazing issue, right? Everybody knows about the meme going around, and that is what is consumerism. He actually, consumerism has led to the success of Coca-Cola. Okay, but at the same time, now when some celebrity is pointing out to its problems, right? So these problems, which are like environmental health issues, that can lead to a different economic scenario in your region or geography. It has its own fair share. It can drive good economic growth. But when I'm talking about the another aspect, that is more based upon the negative aspect. Okay, it can lead you to create more or need more health infrastructure, need more environmental infrastructure. We use a lot of diesel cars, right? It's a consumerism. There are new products coming into the market, very very high end, and then there is the electrical vehicles also coming up. So they both have consumerism. They both have their own carbon foot. And since Simmer is there, he understands that the value of renewable energy and non-renewable energy, the usage of these products, these are also basically consumerism. I mean, in fact, the product of Simmer is itself a consumerism product, right? He is doing amazing job in the field of solar in India, and is one of the leading player in the country. And if you look at his story and understand the product, I see people have understood what kind of consumerism they want, right? Every product have its own side, but they have tried to adjust and come to a point where they can make a decision what to take up. Now, more and more consumerism, when we are looking at people are adopting to this solar technology. I'm amazed by even I went to my some of the rural parts of Rajasthan right recently, and I was so happy to see that even a small house that is not even I would say permanent structure had a solar roof, right, and which was you know giving them more I would say a better quality of life. But yes, again, we have to decide consumerism, the reasons, how it helps, because that again now the consumed in the solar electricity has left the main grid network, which provides jobs, which provides so much of employment, the state electricity boards, it provides so many things. So it is creating a altogether different market. But yes, we need to just understand that consumerism, it has its own benefits and it has its own problems. But yes, I'm more of towards concerned about good consumerism behavior.
And Varun sir, that was really nice of you to put, because you very nicely stated that we are all consumers at the end of the day. So it's just about the choice we make, what kind of products that we are consuming. And I think we need more entrepreneurs like Simar sir, and we need more people with the thinking like Varun sir has, that we need to make a choice and we need to be more responsible as consumers while choosing what to consume. So thanks a lot to you for that, sir. And next up, we have Nilay with us. Over to you, Nilay.
Yeah, hi Anshuman. Hi everyone. Thank you. First of all, the point that Varun sir made is really good. There are good parts and bad parts of consumerism. So, but the problem I have here is there are companies and there are marketers actually they're trying to influence how the people actually consume. Means the problem is where they are trying to change the consumer behavior in a negative way. That there the problem lies. See, the problem doesn't lie where like the if the consumer is able to choose what he wants to consume, there it's fine. But where they are trying to influence everything.
So next speaker we have with us is Shifali. Shifali, over to you.
So I would just like to add that, yeah, being a consumer, we have a lot of options available, and we get it at competitive prices, also very less prices. So as a consumer, it's good, but brands are feeding on capitalization. So of course, when it comes to them, like, they are generating more jobs, so obviously they will work according to their benefits and profits. So I think we always have a choice. We can always work our choices. So it all comes down to like working our choices, like nothing is good or bad. And when it comes to like earth, and obviously there are industries, there are companies who are like producing products that are non-biodegradable. So I completely agree with that. We always have a way, we always have an option to work our choices. So yeah.
Right. Thanks a lot for your inputs, Shifali. And next up we have Pragati. Pragati, do you have any questions for the panelist here?
I would like to appreciate all the points that I've listened so far. And I just have this thing that how can a consumer be a part of this information? Like recent news I've heard was that they wanted to remove the informations from the packets of what they contain, like the ingredients and all. Like I just wanted to know how a consumer can be more aware of all the
Right.
facts.
That's a very genuine question, and I'm surprised that after 2.5 hours of this room, this is the first time that the question has come up. Because as a responsible consumer, so to say, this is the first thing that should come up. And Pragati, since you joined the room a little late, for the future, you can just follow the moderators and All India Startups Club so that you don't miss any of our rooms.
Right,
And
so I
I
just
think, sure, sure, sure. Please go ahead. And I think Kunal sir can take up this question very well. Kunal sir, over to you.
So I think there's a point I want to highlight here that tries to address the question you've asked. Actually, let me take an analogy first and then try to answer your question. Think about it. What is the if you search for a disease or a symptom on Google, I assume you would all, many of us would use Google, right? On Google, when you search for it, you all see the top results on the first page. I assume none of you go to the second page ever, right? Most of us don't. When you search on the first page, what do you think comes on the first page? Is it the true disease and the true symptoms and the true medicines that can solve it? or is it the ones that have been SEO, digital marketed, optimized, content, influencer driven, etc., that come on the first page, which may or may not be necessarily the best? Just think about it. What you find on first page that we believe in, as an example, on Google, searching for a disease or a symptom or a medicine, may not be the most appropriate one for you. So I guess the point I'm trying to make for you, Pragati, is that unfortunately the world, the market is rigged by people who can pay the most, by the corporations that can pay the most. For you, if you really want to find out what's in a product, what's in anything that you're consuming, what impact does it have anywhere else in the world. So take an example. If you are buying an Apple iPhone or a Xiaomi phone, they're all, remember, made in China by kids. Okay, if you're buying Nike shoes or Gap t-shirts, they are also likely to be made in sweatshop floors in Bangladesh by kids, or where people are being exploited. If you want to really see the impact, if you are buying, let's say, sugared water like Coca-Cola, or let's say you're buying some Tropicana juice, fortunately so far it's written there, it's 12 grams, 20 grams, 30 grams of sugar per 100 ml serving. It's really bad. Most of the times you will not necessarily find the information on the package for some of the products you are consuming, what impact they have on you, what impact they have on the planet, what impact they have on our ecosystem and the environment and the society. Most of the times you'll have to research, and unfortunately, as a consumer, if you want to be an informed person, then you need to research much in detail, not just on the first page of Google. You will never find the facts there. There you will find what those companies want to show you. So you'll have to, unfortunately, work harder in learning these things and figuring these things out. The side effects of many things, like let's say avocado is considered a good fruit, but how it's highly impactful and badly impactful towards its environment. Think about some of the coffee or the other products we consume, like Nutella. Nutella, as an example, one jar of Nutella has 60% sugar in it. If you were to see its ingredients, you can never consume it, even though it's the most delicious thing you will ever have. It has a little bit of cocoa. So it's a hard search. It's not easy. Wherever it's available, go. That's the least you can believe in, but trust me, it will always be worse than what you are seeing, because they will definitely try to manipulate and try to give out the least information which can influence the consumer behavior in deciding not to procure the product, not to consume the product. So whatever you see is the least worst. It's definitely going to be more worst. And if you really want to see, you'll have to work hard, figure out the documentaries behind, read much more stuff behind, and that will never be on the first page of Google. That will not be promoted by any celebrity or influencer marketing, because they are being paid to actually state otherwise. Okay, so one, obviously, Social Dilemma is an excellent documentary, and it's a very fun, engaged watch. It's not a boring documentary at all. One other thing you will see is that 2016 elections, US elections and Brexit vote was influenced completely and manipulated due to social media, and how easily they could do that. One or two other things I wanted to mention here were that one other thing you could watch is Ex Machina. Ex Machina is a movie on Netflix or Prime. I'm not sure where it is. You can Google it up, Ex Machina. There they show that how these platforms like Google, Facebook and others, and Alexas of the world, as an example, possibly even Clubhouse eventually, they are listening to, tracking all the data of humans, essentially in order to try and build a smarter AI who can understand how humans build, behave, operate, how their psychology works, and try and decode it in order to influence them later. So Ex Machina is another movie where they actually show how this is all done, and possibly there is some Clubhouse AI that is listening to all what we are saying. They are typecasting us, putting us in thousands of categories and trying to figure out how to eventually sell us something, or how to sell the AI back to us somehow, whatever we're gonna believe in. So, yeah, it's a very
Kunal,
interesting debate. Yeah,
that is a very mind-boggling thing that you've shared with us. And I
yeah,
think some people might leave this group and might just uninstall
that's okay.
Clubhouse after listening.
So Anshuman, you were saying the group is not ending, so that's the best way I could come up with. I have to scare them off. No, but
Yes.
seriously, but seriously, I think be careful. I think at the end of the day, anything in your mind so far is secure, but anything it comes out of your mouth or on your internet, good luck. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right,
It was a
Pragati.
great conversation.
Yeah,
Right.
Pragati, you had something to say, I think.
Yes, sir. And I just wanted to say that that social dilemma is going to help me a lot. Like, I am a social media addict. So, Yeah.
If you don't leave Facebook after watching it, means either you've not liked it enough or you need help from psychologist or someone else, because you are
Oh my God.
genuinely an addict after that. Even if you still continue, I also left Facebook after watching it years ago, whenever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't watch like I'm not on Facebook, but yeah, Instagram and Snapchat's gonna be the one that I'm gonna affect it on.
Yeah,
Also, I
I
just
think
wanted to say that
Facebook.
thank you. I have joined for a very little time, but it was very, very amazing, I would say.
Right, right. Thanks a lot. And Varun is our last speaker here. And after that, we'll just wind up the room. So Varun, over to you.
Yeah, on a lighter note, Anshuman, you said you're off Facebook and Instagram, but you use WhatsApp, right? But all three of them are owned by the same company, so I think we
No,
need
no,
to beware
that's
there.
true. The reason why I left Facebook and Instagram was because there are paid advertisements there, and it is more of a platform where companies are selling their products to us, and it is nothing more. So the day WhatsApp comes up with advertisements, I might have to think of an alternative. But till then, I am pretty safe with WhatsApp. So please do follow the club and also follow the speakers and moderators here. Kunal sir is an angel investor. He's a serial entrepreneur. He is heading three IT companies right now, and he is a great thinker and a speaker. Do get in touch with us on offline also. We would be more than happy to connect with you on other platforms, and that is how we will collaborate, and that is how we will be more linked. Like we were talking about that, how humans are linked to each other, and that is how we can collaborate and work in the future also. So thanks a lot for joining in, guys. I will be ending this room now. Thanks a lot, Kunal sir and AS Rai sir, for joining in. It's been an absolute pleasure to be in conversation with you.